tonight by saying I'm your host. My name's Jaden. For those of you that don't know me, I started Tweak Fitness in 2010. It was St. Patrick's Day, actually, 2010, with one client. Her name was Marie. My first day at work was 30 minutes. And we've sort of worked out, it's sort of panned out a few years later. We started a gym in Ingham that Keenan had bought from us in a few years previous, and has obviously taken to a whole new level, which is really cool. We've also come to Tully, set up what we've done here, and we've also partnered with some great people up here, Chris and Temi, in CrossFit Tully, which is pretty cool. So I'm just from time to time admitting people that are still coming through. Awesome. So tonight's program, guys, is about to kick off, and this is what we're going to work our way through. So in just a sec, you're going to hear from Dasha, who is going to be presenting with me tonight. And what we're going to work on and what we're going to try and stick with is, sorry, as I'm just jumping in and admitting people as they're coming through. Is a couple of things. So we're going to talk about proteins. We're going to talk about the importance of proteins. We're going to talk about carbohydrates tonight. We're going to talk about fats, good or bad. And then we're going to talk about how you might put together a day, maybe not a day on the plate, but how we might formulate our nutrition day to day. Tonight, we're also going to talk about our Vault 360 scan. And explain that to you. Most of you, I'm hoping at this point in time, have been scanned, and I'm hoping that you guys might have your scan results sitting there in front of you is what I'm hoping. And we'll also talk about the $1,000 cash prize for those of you guys that might be interested, because let's face it, that's pretty interesting. So to jump on, let's have a chat to Dasha. Dasha, where are you? You still there? Still with me?
Still here. I'm still here. Hi, everyone. I'm
Wicked.
Dana. Some of you
Tell us a little
definitely
bit
know
about
me
yourself.
from classes. Awesome. To those of you who don't know me, I'm a coach at CrossFit Solid. I'm also a personal trainer at Tweak Fitness, as well as nutrition coach for both of those. Working with these guys for about a year and a half now, and really happy to be here.
Awesome. Very goodly. Dasha, tell these lovely people what you do on your lazy weekends.
On my lazy weekends, I usually run a little bit, and I like to put a little bit of obstacles into my running, make it a little bit more interesting that way.
Yes, Dasha is very modest. Dasha, I would absolutely call an endurance athlete, although she talks herself down. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown as to maybe the last couple of events that you might have done that people might know?
Definitely the very last one was Spartan Deca Strong. That was more of a fitness-based event, really similar to Hyrox. It was down in Sydney. Before that, it would be probably Spartan itself. So I usually do the whole trifecta weekend, which is 21Ks on Saturday, 10 and 5Ks on Sunday, with about 30 plus obstacles in each of those.
Simple, right? Simple, easy, just a normal weekend for most people. Look, Dash is very qualified to be with us here this evening, guys, and we're going to try and pick her brain as much as we can. Tonight, I've got again, we talk about the PowerPoint and not having death by PowerPoint. The idea with the PowerPoint, Dash and I can talk about nutrition for a really prolonged period of time, and we are very respectful of your time this evening. So we're going to do our best to keep things to bite-sized chunks tonight. We are also going to try and stick with an hour. I can see already that we're 11 minutes in, so Dasha, we're against it to get through what we want to get through, but we'll do the best that we can. The idea with this evening is to give you some practical information that you can start using tomorrow, like straight away, and perhaps some of it you might have heard before, but you might not have heard why you would do these things. It's like, oh, eat protein because we want to hopefully try and get slightly deeper than surface level on a couple of these things to try and drive the point home, and hopefully we can achieve that. So if everyone's okay, we're going to get rolling and jump straight into it. So awesome. Cool. Let's do that. Okay. So we're going to jump in and start off with proteins as the first port of call for us, Dasha. When you sit down with a nutritional coaching client, how do you tackle proteins? Like, what's your mindset around that, and where do you start out with, I suppose, and sort of driving home the importance of protein with your clients?
I would definitely like to highlight that protein should be our number one macronutrient. So we have all those three macronutrients: protein, carbohydrates, and fats. If we are about to concentrate on one, it's definitely protein. So that's the one we want to hit daily, and we want to make sure we eat enough protein. And it doesn't matter if you're someone who is about to lose body fat or gain muscle mass, or you just want to maintain where you are. If you're male or female, we all definitely need to eat protein, and I believe that most people need to eat more protein that they are currently eating. Most of my clients usually need a little bit more.
I think that's a fairly safe generalization, hey, is that everyone's probably a little light on protein. Now, speaking of being light on protein, what's this complete protein thing that we bang on about? What's it mean and why is it important and why should we care about it?
So when eating protein, it's not just about eating something that has protein in it, but we want to eat proteins that are complete. So that means mostly animal proteins because they contain the essential amino acids that we really need, that our body needs daily. So we have amino acids that are non-essential, that our body can make, and then we have amino acids that we cannot make ourselves. Therefore, we need to take it from our food every day. And doing that is really complicated if you are someone who is not eating meat, who is not eating animal products, because you can still make complete proteins, but you have to combine quite a few things. On the other hand, if you're someone who is eating meat, that's definitely your number one: eating meat and eating eggs, because they definitely have all of those complete proteins that we want to be able to not just build muscle mass, but also for our hormones, good sleep, and many, many other things.
Cool. I would agree with that 100%. If there's any vegetarians or vegans that are listening tonight or that do listen to this presentation at any point in the future, I would recommend a nutritional coach immediately, because if you're not using animal products or animal meats as an example to consume your protein daily, there's some work to do for sure. So, for example, Dasha, if we were consuming legumes to get in our protein content, which we might do if we're vegetarian or vegan, as an example, my process and what I've always sort of suggested to people is to consider those foods amino acid foods. Yes, they have some amino acids in them, but not a complete protein. We might need to consume legumes and some green leafy vegetables and some nuts in combination to make up a complete protein, which can be really tricky. So this is why we need to get a coach, particularly for those of us that don't eat animal meats. Is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you look at a good quality, now we're talking about really good quality vegan protein powders, you would see
Mhm.
that they're made of several different things. And there is a reason for that, because combination of those things will eventually get you the complete protein. However, it is definitely much harder to estimate that yourself. There are certain percentages and certain things that you should be combining to get everything that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when I suppose the bioavailability side of thing kicks in. Hey, we say maybe at a really surface level view, I've eaten 427 grams of almonds. That gives me 33 grams of protein because that's what it says on the back of the box of almonds. But what exactly the bioavailability and the absorption is after that is really tricky, right?
Yeah, definitely. So unfortunately, not everything that has protein automatically means that we are absorbing all of that protein from the thing. So when it comes to your proteins, meat is the most bioavailable one. We definitely absorb most of it, still not all of it, so most of it. But then when it comes to legumes and things like that, it is much harder for our body to process and absorb the actual protein.
Awesome. Cool. Can be done. So vegetarians and vegans, don't fret, can be done. But you need a brain like Dash's, or I recommend you need a brain like Dash's to help you out with that because it's not just as easy as it is if you were to consume some animal meat. So on that, we're talking animal products, animal meats, eggs, a protein supplement is a great tool. Tofu is also a complete source of protein, which I've got a couple of issues with. Dasha, do you have any thoughts around tofu as a tool?
It is honestly, if you don't eat meat, definitely at least something to have. But if I could recommend at least having products, if we are talking about soy products that are fermented, so rather tempeh than tofu. And same when you're eating any vegan protein powders and things like that, sprouted protein would be the one. So sprouted grains and legumes rather than just the plain pea protein or something like that.
Absolutely. I would absolutely agree with that. The last thing I wanted to sort of touch on, if you're eyeballing something, so if we're talking about consuming some protein on a daily basis, and we use roughly the size of our palm, like for a steak or some chicken breast or something like that, a basic tool that I've always used is if the meat is dense, you require a little less of it versus if it's less dense, you can have a little bit more. So for example, if you can imagine a rump steak, the density of the meat's quite high versus a piece of mackerel you could eat a little bit more of because you can like break it up with a fork. Is that okay as generalization, eyeballing type ideas, Dasha?
Yeah, exactly. So we want to eat mostly those lean proteins, but that doesn't mean that we want to eat only the lean proteins. So
Absolutely.
venison is an amazing thing to have because it has lots of iron, but then we would love to have some fish and other proteins as well. So not eating just lean meats. And what you said with the palm size, that's amazing too, because we all have different palms, we all have different sizes. So my palm is the ideal portion for me, where your palm will be probably bigger than mine. So you need more protein than I do.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Easy eyeballing way to do things, and gives us some context when we're trying to prepare for ourselves. So, in terms of our protein content, we're talking about small regular intakes of protein, Dasha. So small protein based meals. Is that what you'd recommend with your clients, as sort of the backbone of their nutrition day to day?
Yeah, definitely. So, we talked about this, me and you, but for everyone else, we don't really look at meals as breakfast, snack, lunch, but rather meals one, meal two, meal three, and they all should be a meal. So we would love to see meals that are complete with all three macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fats, because that means that you are supporting your body, especially with protein. If you add protein to all of your meals, you will absorb more of it. And you will also make sure that you are satisfied, that you are full. It will keep you fuller for longer.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so just to wrap up there, we're chasing complete proteins. So animal meats or animal products, eggs, those types of things, because they contain the essential amino acids that our body can't produce, which is why we use protein as a tool in that sense. And it also sort of ensures maximum bioavailability. Is that cool? Are we happy there?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. So protein, backbone of our day-to-day nutrition. All right, awesome. So Now that we've touched on proteins, guys, we're going to talk about carbohydrates. I would say, as a generalization, maybe the most abused of the macronutrients. It's very rare in my experience that I sit down with someone and say, "Hey, you're definitely not getting enough carbohydrates in." That's usually not the case for me. Dasha, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. For most people, we are eating a little too much carbohydrates, a little too many. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So when we're talking carbohydrates, we talk about simple and complex carbohydrates or fast-acting and slow-acting carbohydrates, depending on the language that you're comfortable with. A simple carbohydrate, I think, is fairly easy to get our head around. Refined sugars, processed foods, soft drinks, those types of things. Tonight, we're not going to spend a great deal of time telling you not to drink soft drinks, guys. There's not a great deal of nutritional benefit in those. I think you're okay with that. I think that's fairly easy to get our head around. But I will not say that simple carbohydrates have no place in the diet. They certainly do, and we'll touch on that in just a sec. I would say before we sort of dig into simple carbs, as a generalization, complex carbohydrates are what are going to give us a slow release of energy, sustained release of energy, and that would be what we're chasing most of the time. Do you agree with both of those comments, Dasha?
Yeah, 100%. We definitely want to eat mostly complex carbohydrates, all of us. Some people will use simple carbs for sure, but most of people should be eating complex carbohydrates as the one to pick. Yeah.
Cool. So in terms of simple carbohydrates, what are they used for? So like obviously soft drink is soft drink, right? We're not talking about that. What do you use simple carbohydrates for?
Simple carbs are amazing if you are someone who trains a lot, because complex carbohydrates are slow releasing. In the case of training, and we are talking really hard training or really long training, endurance efforts, simple carbs are the ones that you want because you want that sustained energy and you want it really quick, not something that is sitting in your stomach and getting processed and making you feel a bit sluggish and not really well.
Awesome. Yeah, so there's definitely a time and a place, right?
Yeah.
So when you're sitting down with your clients, we mentioned this earlier, in terms of protein, we use that as the backbone of our day-to-day nutrition. How do you approach carbohydrates? Like what's your thought process? Are we consuming this every meal? Is it based on what we're doing for the day? What's your thought process there?
It definitely is different for everyone, so it really depends on how active you are as a person. So if you're someone who's having a desktop job and you're just sitting behind your computer all day long, and then you might be going to the gym every single day, but it's still not that much effort during your day. It's not such a big activity to eat so many carbohydrates. So it really depends. If you're someone who has a manual job and you're active on top of that, then you are that person who needs more carbs in their diet, and you might use some of the simpler carbs as well. If you are the sedentary one, getting complex carbohydrates and being definitely smart about those. So being smart how much and how often you eat the carbs.
Um, Yeah, cool. I agree with that 100%. Although we can use all the macronutrients as fuel, when I think fuel, my brain goes to carbohydrates straight away. And my thought process is if I need to perform, if I've got a specific task to do, if I'm doing something very physical, then carbohydrates are going to be a key fuel for me. I think where a lot of people go wrong in my experience is Sunday is Netflix day, and we're just chilling. And we have a big series that we want to catch up on. So we've got like 18 episodes to get through. And that's the biggest carbohydrate day of the week. All right. And there's some smiles that I can see on your faces right now. So there are guilty people right now. I can see you. And that doesn't quite align with the requirements of fueling the body, right, Dasha?
Yeah, exactly. Look, it wouldn't be such a bad thing if you
Yep.
knew that on Monday you are going for a 3-hour run. because you would then definitely use those carbohydrates. Amazing. Like you've got Max joining the chat. He's the person who would definitely use that. But for most of us, if you want to perform on the daily basis, you also have to eat to match that. And that's where all the calorie things come in place as well. So you might not eat the same amount of calories every single day. That's why counting calories is probably not an amazing idea for everyone, because you'll have days with a lot of activity, with a lot of effort, where you need to eat a little bit more carbs, and then you'll have slow days as the Sunday where it should be the actual opposite, and you are probably not in a need of carbohydrates in that way.
Absolutely. Well, certainly maybe a little less than what I just outlined then for sure. The thing I wanted to touch on before we moved on is I think a really common theme with nutrition is that moderation is key. Like I've heard that, like if I had $1 for every time I've heard that, it would be a nice thing. And when it comes to carbohydrates, you can see moderation is key here as one of the bullet points, and it just outlines the things that, like just some of the things that contain carbohydrates: bread, cereals, juices, milks, condiments, pasta, processed foods, snacks, fruits, vegetables. If you think about what you consume daily and you apply the moderation thought, this is where carbohydrates can be one of those things that's a real sticking point for us. Maybe we don't even know that we're consuming excess carbohydrates, but when we look at these foods that are daily staples, this is how we can sort of get out of control with our carbohydrate intake. Is that fair to say, Dasha?
Yeah, absolutely. So it adds up. It adds up real quick without us realizing. A little bit of sauce here, little drink there. There are things that you don't even think about, and you are adding those carbs, you are adding those extra calories in general without even thinking about it. So that is when writing the food diary, writing the food journal is really handy. It's not for us. It's more for you guys to just see what are you eating during the day, because you might not realize how many of these little things that add up to the overall food intake you are actually eating. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's bang on. I think the nutritional diary, I think a lot of people see it as a pain in the butt, but honestly, the most successful people that I've ever worked with have recorded everything they've eaten, because it can be really confronting. You're like, oh, my day wasn't so bad. And then you read it and it's like, what the heck? Like, who did that? And
Yeah.
so and it's not meant to be harsh. It's meant to be a learning process. Like, hey, let's bring the awareness to what I'm doing so I can make the changes that I might be wanting to make. Awesome. Okay, cool. So, sort of touch on what we've talked about protein being the staple day-to-day backbone of our nutrition. We've moved on to carbohydrates, and we've talked about using them as tools, both simple and complex carbohydrates, as both having a role in the diet, and using these as our maybe not primary, but major fuel sources. So, bigger day, higher workload, more fuel. Lower workload, maybe a little less fuel. Simple, I think, to get our head around. Is that cool? We happy with that, Dasha?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Sweet. All right, cool. So let's jump on and have a talk about fats. So fat's always been one that when I'm working with people, Dasha, most people that come in to work with us, and again, this is a generalization, are looking to target body fat and reduce body fat. And as a result, I think we sort of get this idea that fat is bad because it's the thing that we're trying to lose. And when we start to talk about incorporating fats in the diet, people can be a little standoffish, like, man, I'm trying to get rid of fat. I don't want to put more in. Is that something that you experience? And do you find that common with people that you work with?
Yeah, 100%. It's the whole fat will make me fat, which is not true. But I feel like we grew up in the era, or our parents grew up in the era where everything was low fat. Fat had such a bad reputation, such a bad name, and we know now for how many years that's not true. But we grew up in that, and it's really hard to just get our head around it now, even though we know it's not true. If you're drilled something, it's hard to change that idea. but fat is not bad. It depends which one, obviously, 100%, but it is not a bad thing, and we need it in our diet. Our brains love fat, so if you don't eat it, you will not feel good. You will not perform well when it comes to work and actual things like that.
Absolutely. Absorption of vitamins, production of hormones, all these things really important and dependent on fat in the diet. Yeah, 100%. Now, when we're talking about fats that we want to try and avoid, you can see trans fats there. Trans fats are carcinogenic, unfortunately, still legal to have in our foods here in Australia, which is disturbing. Primarily found in processed foods, right? So if you're consuming processed foods, it's hard to get around trans fats. Again, processed foods should be like a really, really occasional type food, because it's hard to get around this stuff, right? And this stuff, is there any nutritional benefit that you can recommend of trans fat, Dasha? I think it's just all downside.
Zero. No, it doesn't have any plus for us whatsoever. No.
Awesome. So that one there, like we're absolutely trying to avoid. When you're talking to your clients, how do you go about incorporating fat into the diet? Is something that you actively add as a tool to slow down absorption or to add flavor, or what's your thought process there?
Exactly what you just said. So fat makes everything taste better. Let's just start with that. So if you add a little bit of fat onto your salad, it will taste 100% better rather than just plain lettuce. And you are doing something really good for yourself as well. Obviously, we don't want to just drain it in and put 3 liters of a dressing onto your fats, but a little bit of avocado, by the way, or a little bit of olive oil. Amazing thing to do. And then we have also fat found in fish, fat found in meat. They are good for us as well. So not staying completely away from fatty meats all the time or fatty fish, because they have their space too. Same with adding the fat into the diet, just being smart when you're frying things and stuff like that. That's not the fat we want.
On frying things, you just mentioned, I think you mentioned olive oil just then. This is a conversation that we've sort of had earlier, that I think is fairly valuable. I've always considered olive oil a cold oil, something not to cook with. Can you sort of touch on a little bit about the smoke point in terms of oils and what happens to the nature of an oil when you put it in a pan and bring it to the point of smoking?
Yeah, definitely. So olive oil is an amazing thing for us to have, but it is meant to be eaten cold, or slightly warm. It has a really low smoking point, as you just said, which means that if we heat it up, and I think it is not much when it comes to olive oil, if we heat it up, we will totally change the texture of the oil itself, and it will become carcinogenic. So it will become from something super good for us, something really bad. So also being mindful of what oils we're using for what things. Cold oils for cold pressed oils for things that are meant to be eaten cold, and then we've got oils that are good for frying or heating things up.
Absolutely. Something like avocado oil, macadamia oil, are monounsaturated fats, but have a higher smoke point, so a little safer to cook with. But if you can, try and avoid smoking oils at any point in time. It just really helps maintain the integrity of what the product is, right? I think when we're talking about fats, it's a great opportunity to talk about things that are close to nature in terms of the consumption of our food. So I've said for a really long time that the basis of our nutrition should be something that was once living or was once growing. And that was like my one sentence to say to people, like, if you can do that, you're not 90%, maybe you are 90% of the way there, right? Something that was once living or was once growing. When we get into something like you can see here on the PowerPoint, if you're having a look, guys, yes, canola oil is a monounsaturated fat, but highly processed seed oils are horrendous for you, right? Whereas we talk about an avocado that's come from a tree, pretty pretty great source of fat and daily caloric intake. Is that how do you feel about that, Dash? And what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. I know that cost of living is getting higher and higher, and it is really hard to buy things that are always good quality. But when it comes to oils, that's the one thing I would definitely pick. So we don't need to eat organic everything or the best everything, but if you are using oils, make sure you're not buying the cheapest of the cheapest and you're not buying things like seed oils because it makes a huge difference in your health. And with eating as close as we can to the natural state of things, that's really important too, because yes, it's about calories if we want to lose weight or if we want to gain muscle, but it's also about macronutrients as well. So just because something is low in calories or low in fats or low in whatever, it doesn't mean it's good for us. So keeping that in mind too. So natural foods that are whole are much better for us because they have all the other things than just the free macronutrients. They have all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the other things that we need to absorb too.
Absolutely. And a great, I suppose, proof case for seed oils being horrendous is checking out the next time you're in the shops, just some processed foods. Flip them over, have a look, read in the ingredients, right? Seed oils are cheap as all cheap. So you'll see sunflower oil, canola oil in everything. It's cheap. And yeah, it does add flavor. But the nutritional value is scary. So anyway, that's yeah, anyway, that's a story for another night, I think. Cool. Dash, are you happy there with what we've been through? You happy for us to jump on to the next slide?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So, let's talk about putting it together, right? So from what we've just spoken about, if someone's watching this, Dasha, like how do we do this? How do we get our head around what we should eat roughly in a day? What does it look like?
As I mentioned, everyone's different. It really depends on how active you are.
Mhm.
And make it easy or simple, not so easy, but simple for yourself. If you eat things that are as close to nature as possible, it is really difficult to overeat, and it is really difficult to eat in a caloric surplus. So that is one way to do it. And then working with all the free macronutrients as we touched on before. So doing several meals a day rather than snacking and not understanding why you're hungry, why you're not feeling well. So if you have breakfast at 7 and you're having lunch at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, yes, you'll be really hungry and you'll be searching for just about anything inside. If you had one meal in between that had all three macronutrients, especially your protein, you'll feel so much better. You won't be hungry. You'll probably eat much better choices. You'll make much better choices for your lunch as well. So meeting all the free macronutrients in every meal, if you can, is a definitely big plus.
I think, well, one of the things you mentioned there is that, well, like, that's something that I've heard a lot as well. Like, breakfast at 7, lunch at 2, dinner at 9, or whatever it is. I think if you get to your meal starving, I don't care who you are, you need to have the discipline of a monk not to overeat,
Yeah.
regardless of what it is, right? So if there's been 12 hours between meals, it's tricky. So this is what we're trying to sort of drive home is to build in that control into your day. So we're getting small meals in regularly. So when we sit down to a meal, we're ready to eat, but we're not prepared to walk through a wall to eat a day-old bag of chips on the other side because we're famished, right? Is that is that fair enough?
Yeah, I
Awesome.
agree. 100%.
Cool. Awesome. I also think that people find it maybe a little bit confronting or a little bit overwhelming, like what actually is a protein, what is a fat, what is a carbohydrate. But I think if we can make those considerations around our day-to-day nutrition and actually look at the foods that we're eating rather than just sit down to eat, like look into this meal to say, hey, am I meeting my carbohydrate, my fat, and my protein requirement here? I think it adds a lot of mindfulness to the way we're actually going about consuming our food. Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely agree. So looking at what you're eating and keeping things simple, and that's what it is. So if you want to eat protein, choosing meat and eggs as your number one, then there are definitely other things, especially if you're someone who doesn't eat meat. Carbohydrates, choosing starchy vegetables like potato, sweet potato, obviously all your fruits would be carbohydrates, some other veggies as well, and then we would probably go for things like rice or other grains, like maybe some ancient grains, and then processed carbohydrates. But I would definitely leave them out as much as I can, because apart from taste, they unfortunately don't really give us anything. Um, for most people, they are not necessary, and then adding the fats on top of those as well. So maybe adding a little bit of avocado onto your salad, or a little bit of dressing, or a few nuts with your meal.
Cool. All right, perfect. All right, cool. Hopefully there's been a few bits and pieces in there that you guys could pull from that will be little gems for your day to day, and something that you can implement as of tomorrow is what our objective is here. Hopefully, and again, all of what Dasha and I were talking about here was meant to be sustainable and something that you could do and sink your teeth into. Oh, sorry, pardon the pun, long term. It's something that's not designed to be really strict and specific and restrictive for a 6 week period, but more so conducive of living a healthy life, regardless of whether you're trying to lose body fat or gain muscle mass. Right? These principles are consistent across. I suppose all disciplines, even if you happen to be an endurance athlete, as an example, right? These are the foundations, and then we make changes based on that with someone like Dasha, usually, to help coach us through those steps. Is that fair, Dasha? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone's slightly different. We all have slightly different needs, but the basics are the same for all of us. Yes.
Awesome. All right, cool. All right, guys. So the next slide we're going to jump into, again, we're 40 something minutes in. Is that where I wanted to be? Yes, it is. Cool. All right, perfect. This is our Vault 360 scan. So if you've got your Vault 360 scan paper in front of you guys, that'd be really handy. This is something that we're gonna have Dasha walk us through now. So Dasha, take it away. Will you walk us through the Vault 360 scan?
Awesome. So if you already got your scan, you have some idea. If not, please book so we can actually do that for you. Let's start from the very top. So at the top of your screen, you'll have a date and a name, obviously, then your height, your overall weight, your actual age, and gender. So the overall weight is a number that scares quite a lot of people, but honestly, it doesn't really tell us much. We want to look underneath, and we want to look what you are actually made of, because someone can look heavy when it comes to that one number, but be actually really healthy and really fit person who doesn't need to lose any weight or do anything. So don't get wrapped up in that number by itself, and let's just look at the other numbers there. So the first one is your lean body mass. Your lean body mass is all the mass in your body apart from your body fat. So it's not just your muscles, but it's also your bones and things that your body contains. And right next to that, you always have brackets. These brackets are the average. So if you look at your age and your gender, your height and weight, this is where the average person should be sort of sitting. It doesn't mean that you have to fit into those brackets, because we are all individual, and I'm slightly different than someone who can be exactly the same height and same weight. So I always want to look at myself and comparing myself to myself. But it is a good indication of where we should be sitting. So underneath your lean body mass, we have a skeletal muscle mass. So that's all the muscles that we are actually using, that you can control. All the muscles that are attached to your bones, the ones that we want to grow in the gym, that we want to use. If you look at the brackets, it might tell you that your skeletal muscle mass might be high. Not a bad thing, guys. We would be concerned if it says that it is under. I'm pretty sure is the word that it's used on the paper. So if your skeletal muscle mass is under, that is something to work with. We want that optimal and higher. Having a lot of muscle is never a problem unless we are bodybuilders with silly amounts of muscle, but then there might be some drugs included in that. So I think we're all good here. Underneath your muscle mass is the protein. And it is the protein that we are storing in our body. So this is a nice indication of how much protein you are possibly taking in as a part of your diet. Again, it is not really bad if that is a high number, unless it's stupid high. It could be a problem if that number is low. So if you're under, making a little mental note and thinking, okay, maybe I am not eating enough protein in my diet. Maybe that is something I can change. And again, that talks back to the skeletal muscle mass. If your muscle mass isn't really optimal, it is maybe your training, but it is definitely your diet. So all of these things come mostly to our diet. Underneath our protein is the minerals. So how many minerals we are storing in our bones. It is a good indication of a bone density. It is not the same thing. Unfortunately, we are not able to tell you what your bone density really is. But if you have quite a high number of minerals, this is a good indication that your bones are healthy. Underneath our minerals, we have total body water. So once again, optimal, amazing. High, not so great in this case. So if your total body water is a little bit higher than the average, that's not really an issue. But if it's really high, we are possibly having some sort of problem, something happening in the body. And usually it is some inflammation in the body. It can be, and it mostly is from our diet. So if you're eating things that are highly inflammatory, which is the sugar, is the gluten, is dairy. Not that dairy and gluten are evil, but they do make a difference. So it is something to keep in mind, to be moderate with intake of these. Sugar as plain sugar definitely isn't good for us. So if you have a high total body water, really high, that's not a great thing. If you have a low body water, you need to drink more. You need to hydrate more.
Can
Moving
I
on.
interrupt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interrupt for 2 seconds.
Okay.
The total body water one is a really big one, specifically for women. And this is something that I wanted to encourage all the women. So anyone that I ever scan, so any ladies that we ever scan, I encourage you to get a scan in 4 weeks rather than 6 weeks. The reason is we want to catch you in the same week of your cycle every time we scan you. Dash, do you want to touch on that just a little bit as the total
Yeah.
body water? Yeah.
Thank you so much for reminding me. Very good point. So, ladies, our body weight changes quite a lot. It can be several kilos during our cycle, and it is usually our body water that changes. So, having the scan at the same time of the cycle is a really good thing, because then you have the conditions that are as controlled as they possibly can be. Because during the different days, during the different weeks of my cycle, I honestly can be up to, for myself, up to 4 kilos heavier. And all that is the total body water. It changes quite a few things. So keeping that in mind, and you might even feel a little bit puffier and all of that. So keeping that in mind, that we are a little bit more complicated than males in this sort of thing. So yeah, 4 weeks is definitely a good thing. So we can keep it as controlled as possible. Yeah, thank you. That's really good point.
Awesome. Soldier on.
Perfect. Moving on to body fat mass. So the first number is our overall body fat mass in kilos. And that tells us a little bit, but not really that much. It's very similar to the overall weight. Yeah, it's a number in kilos, looks like something, but I don't really know much. I want to see what the other fats, what the two types of fats I'm having in my body. So underneath it, number 7, we have subcutaneous fat mass. So that is all the fat that we can see. So if you have little rolls somewhere, if you can see, that's the subcutaneous fat mass, the one that's right underneath the skin. Underneath it is our visceral fat mass. So if we were about to take one thing from the scan, one thing only, it will be this number. Really, really important. So visceral fat is the fat sitting around our organs, and the higher the number is, the higher the risk of chronic diseases is. So when it comes to visceral fat, we definitely want to see the number as close to 0 as possible. The lower it is, the better it is. We need fat, like all of us need some fat, not visceral fat. We do not want that fat sitting around the organs and basically choking them. Getting rid of that, your movement, and once again, it is definitely your diet. So being smart about what we're eating and eating as close to natural sources as possible is one thing that can help with that. Visceral fat area. So if
Can
you
I just
took,
touch? Sorry, can I
yeah,
interrupt 2 seconds? Subcutaneous body fat. So the way I always explain subcutaneous body fat is if you want to fit your clothes differently, subcutaneous body fat is the one that you need to attack, right? You
yeah,
can't do it. You can't say I'm going to go out and lose subcutaneous body fat today versus visceral body fat. It doesn't quite work like that. But if you want to change the way that you feel in your clothes, it's subcutaneous body fat. That's a personal one. So that's not one that Dash or I are going to coach you on saying, hey, we need to bring down your subcutaneous body fat necessarily, right? But the health related one, as Dasha mentioned, is visceral fat. So that's one that we're going to be pushing on always. This is a number that we want to drive down, right? Is that fair, Dasha?
Yeah, 100%. So I completely understand that aesthetics matter as well. So our
Yep.
subcutaneous fat is the aesthetic part,
Sure.
and we want to lower that number as well. But we want to be healthy. So looking fit and being healthy aren't the two and the same thing. So looking fit and being fit, definitely a big difference. So someone can look amazing, but their body is just total mess.
Yep.
So making sure that we actually target the whole picture and stay as healthy as we can. So visceral fat, number one thing for me, because it is about being healthy, and we wanna be healthy and live happy as long as possible without problems. And with that visceral fat area, so if you took all of that fat from your belly, from that area around the organs, and spread it out on the floor in front of you, this is how many centimeters square it would take. So it is a really good visual thing to do, and think about like, oh, okay, maybe this is definitely something to work on. I think that is really, really good thing how to imagine that rather than seeing that in kilos, because it is hard to imagine that way. And underneath it, one number that most people are actually interested in is our total body fat percentage. Once again, this one has the brackets on it next to the number that tell you about where you should be sitting And in this case, I would say trying to fit in the brackets is also a good thing. So when it comes to muscle, not really bad to have a high muscle mass. When it comes to fat percentage, not good for us. When we want to be healthy, when we want to be fit. Or going on to the other way, having a really low fat body percentage is not good at all either. Males can have a little lower body fat percentage. For us females, we want to keep it a certain way because of our hormones, because of these things that we do have extra. And honestly, it is really difficult to keep a low body percentage in general. So unless someone wants to step on a stage in those 6 weeks, which I don't think we have anyone like that, keep that in mind that we still need fat, and fitting somewhere in those brackets, honestly, is pretty good. Is there anything you would like to add to that one, Jaden? No,
Yep.
perfect.
Perfect. Cool.
Awesome. Last few things on this page, visceral fat level, just another number that talks back to the visceral fat. So again, closer to 0 it is, the better it is. Intracellular and extracellular fluid, so that's the fluid inside and outside of our cells. It should be about 66 to 34%, if I'm saying that right. And that's just saying where the fluid in our body is sitting. So if these numbers were wrong, once again, there is probably something not quite right. We might have an inflammation in our body. We might have an issue that should be addressed. Underneath that, we have our basal metabolic rate. So basal metabolic rate is a
2
number.
seconds. Can I interrupt you? 2
Yes.
seconds. Your intracellular fluid, sorry, I will be 2 seconds. Intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. If you combine those two, guys, that's your total body water. So if you've noticed that, total body water number 5 in column number 1 over here, you break those down into items 12 and 13. That's how that's broken up. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Please.
thank you. But yes,
Please stop.
absolutely. So most of your body water should be sitting inside your cells, and
Sure.
hence that's 66%. And then we want to have about a 34% sitting outside of your cells. If these didn't really match that, there is something going on. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Basal metabolic rate. So that is the amount of calories that you want to eat daily, that you want to take from food if you just want to survive. Honestly, lying down, breathing, and doing absolutely nothing else is what you need to do. So it is just for your body to do its thing without you adding any activity, but any activity at all. Then underneath it, you have your TEE, and that's when you add the activity that you normally do. So that is probably your job if you're someone who's working manually, or your gym activities and all the other things. And that number tells you how much you should be eating in terms of calories per day, with adding those activities to your basal metabolic rate. So you can see those two numbers can be quite different if you're someone really active. So basal metabolic rate also talks back to your muscle and your overall weight as well. So the higher the muscle mass, the more muscle we have, the more we sort of can eat. So once again, having a lot of muscle, not a bad thing at all.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Biological age and body wellness index score, last two things on this slide. So your biological age tells you how healthy and fit you are. So this number should be definitely as close to our actual age, preferably the same or lower. So if that number is higher, it is higher for a reason, and it means that something probably should change. Mostly it is the amount of visceral fat and amount of subcutaneous fat, or very low amount of muscle that makes our bio age worse. And then our body wellness index score, the closer to 10 it is, the more athletic we are. So number 10 would be probably a professional athlete or something like someone like Max. who's crazy fit. And then the rest of us should be aiming to the higher numbers, getting that number nice and high.
Awesome. Yep, I'd agree with that for sure. The bio age, I've always thought of it as a functionality score. I'm a fairly simple fellow, right? So I try and keep things fairly simple, and that's how I look at it, right? So if you can see my cursor, I don't know if you can see my cursor, if that's how Zoom works. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Awesome. So body fat mass, obviously made up of subcutaneous and visceral fat, is what I consider non-functional weight. Right. And I consider lean mass, a skeletal mass, functional weight. So if you want to affect your bio age, my thought process is if you can lower your non-functional weight, which is fat mass, and increase your functional weight, which is skeletal muscle mass, it drops your bio age, making you more functional. That's the
Yeah,
way I've always looked at it. Is
that's
that
amazing. Amazing way to put it. Yeah, perfect. I like that.
cool? All right, perfect. So hopefully that all made sense, guys. We'll jump on to the lower half of the scan now, and I'll let Tasha take over. Sorry.
All good, all good. We can run through this one pretty quickly. On this part of the scan, you can see how balanced you are when it comes to upper and lower body and your left and right. So hopefully most of us see that we are balanced, and that means that you have a similar amount. It won't be the same, but similar amount of lean mass and fat mass on your left arm to your right arm, on your left leg and your right leg. So there might be tiny little differences. It's usually if you are right-handed, for example, you will probably have a little tiny bit more muscle mass on your right arm, therefore a little bit less of body fat. But the difference shouldn't be big. If there is some unbalance, it's probably something to concentrate on a little bit when you come to the gym and work on that. In the middle, we have our torso, so the lean mass and fat mass on our torso. You can probably see that those numbers are higher than the rest. It's pretty simple. It's because our torso is the bigger part of our body. And for us females, we also have breast tissue, so that carries a little bit more fat mass too. So just to keep that in mind, it's not just the belly itself. And right next to that is the abdominal circumference and waist to hip ratio. So your abdominal circumference is another way how to look at the visceral fat, basically. So abdominal circumference is how much we measure around our narrowest part of our waist. And there is a number for males, there is a number for females that we should be hitting, and we want to be underneath that. It also tells us if we are prone to obesity and that sort of thing. So if you have the higher number, it probably means that you have higher visceral fat around those organs as well, and that is something to work on. Waist to hip ratio is yet another thing to look at that. So our waist should always be leaner than our hips. Doesn't mean that we have to have a hourglass figure, but there should be some sort of difference there. Moving on, lower our nutrition. So now you might see that the calories are different to your TEE, and that really depends on what you chose as your goal. So if your goal is weight loss, and there are different choices for that, if it's rapid or sustainable, we always recommend sustainable, but the calories will change quite drastically depending on that. On the other hand, if you are someone who wants to gain muscle mass, you would need to eat in surplus. So you would see that the number of calories is higher than it is at the top. And then those calories are broken down into the 3 macronutrients, and those are pretty good. So when it comes to the protein, I would definitely recommend sticking to that number as much as you can. And then carbohydrates and fats, as we talked about, they are something to work with and play with. Everyone's different. And again, it depends on how active you are. What do you do during your day? If you're someone who's really, really active, you will probably work better with a little bit higher carbohydrates, a little bit lower fats, and vice versa. If you're very sedentary, carbohydrates would just spike your blood sugar and you will feel really terrible if you ate too many carbs and not enough fat. So in your case, you might want to eat a little bit more fat and a little bit of carbohydrates, a little bit less of carbohydrates to just feel good and perform better. Last thing that I just want to say, there are some supplement recommendations. I don't know about you, Jaden, how you feel about it, but I think that's a complete overkill in my eyes. We definitely have space for supplements, but this is very, very generic recommendation. And when it comes to supplements, it's a bit more complicated than that. And I think the best way to approach supplements is to work with someone and probably have your blood work done. That's the best way to go about it, rather than being like, oh, okay, I should be eating N-glutamine and beta-alanine. I have no idea what these are, but it's written on the paper, so I'll just go and buy them. I wouldn't.
Yeah, the supplement recommendation is super generic. So yeah, it's not something that I would go run out and grab. If I was going to give generic advice around supplementation, a protein supplement is where to start. So
Oh,
consuming high quality macronutrients in your day-to-day food is always our go-to number one. Generic advice. A protein supplement's a great tool for everyone, a basic protein supplement. And then when we started to get into the weeds about specific amino acids, greens, fatty acids, essential fatty acids, omega-9, 369s, we need a little bit more information. So just to sort of whack it down on the piece of paper there is, I would agree with Dasha, not something that I would necessarily recommend as essential for everyone. It's a case-by-case process, right?
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Very good. Cool. Okay, so I think we've run through all of that. So I would think so for me, the Evolt 360 scan has revolutionized the way that we look at body composition, and that's what we're talking about here. I think well, maybe we're coached into the idea of what the number is on the scale means we're doing good or bad, right? And that's something that Dash and I have been sort of working against for a really long time. The number on the scale is a factor. It's not all the factors, right? And usually when you see something on the scale and you're like, hey, that doesn't suit me, what you're really saying is, I'm not happy with my body composition. It's not necessarily the number on the scale. All right, so it's like, okay, I don't feel good in myself. I need to change some of my body composition so I do feel better or I perform better, whatever the instance might be. And that's what we can actually see with the Evolt 360 scan, or sorry, whatever the scanner device is. It doesn't have to be like we've got no affiliation to Evolt 360 scans, just happen to be the product that we use. And we can see much more with this tool than we could on the scales or in the old days. You guys remember there's still a few of you, I think, on this call that I used to pinch with skin fold calipers, right? Which was never nice. But that would do subcutaneous fat for us, right? We'd have no idea of what your visceral fat's doing, and we couldn't coach around that. So we're getting a full picture here, which is really cool. The last thing I'll say is the most valuable scan we get is the next one, because it gives us then a baseline. We have this scan that you're looking at right now. We get to put the next one right next to it, and provided the conditions are as close to as the original, right? So we get you same sort of time of day, same training conditions, same food consumption the previous day, those types of things. If we can get you in a similar state, man, we've got so much value. We get to look back and say, hey, these are the things that have happened, and perhaps this is why, and that's where you can actually really learn something. Is that fair, Dasha?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, guys. So we're right at the end. I just wanted to touch on really quick, if that's okay. I wanted to sort of walk you through the $1,000 cash prize, just so you understand and aware of it. There is a $1,000 cash prize to this program, which is awesome. The way that it's going to work, there's a $500 cash prize for the winner announced in Ingham. There's a $500 cash prize for the winner announced in Tully. And there will be an additional $500 to the person that has the best score from both locations. Hopefully that makes sense. That's where the $1,000 cash prize comes from, which is pretty cool. The way we're doing it, the metric that we're actually using, because we have to choose one, that's the gimmick of the program that we're running, right? Is the total body fat percentage. And to make that fair, we're making it a percentage of your starting body fat. Okay, so for example, if your starting body fat percentage was 10%, these are low numbers, guys, but just simple so we can get our head around it. Your starting body fat percentage was 10%. You happen to lose 2%, you're now 20% less than when you started. I hope that makes sense. The reason that we've done it this way is it means that someone with a really low body fat percentage can compete against someone with a higher body fat percentage, and it makes it even across the board. Okay, I hope that's a quick run through, but hopefully that makes sense, and that's the way it's going to work. There is one expectation, not expectation, but one qualification for making you I suppose, eligible for the $1,000 cash prize, and that is that you are a member beyond the challenge. Okay. One of my pet peeves with 6-week challenges, 8-week challenges, 12-week challenges, and I've been as guilty of it as anyone, is we can create some parameters that are really difficult to stick with beyond 6 weeks. And I think that can be counterproductive. I'm not interested in doing that going forward. What I'm interested in is giving you guys useful information that you can actually use to improve your health and fitness long term, not what we can do in 6 weeks. Long term, I want you to be as fit and healthy as you can possibly be for as long as possible. So that's the whole process and what we're doing here. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if there's any questions, we can sort of touch on that. Dasha, did that make sense? A quick run through there?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes complete sense. And just saying this is the starting point. It's not like, okay, I'll do 6 weeks and that's it. I'll go back to my old habits. That's not exactly how it works. This is a starting point and learning how to be just healthier and happier.
Awesome. Yep, I would agree with that 100%. Now, if you found any of what we were talking about interesting tonight and you found it intriguing, you're like, hey, that lady really knows what she's talking about. This is not a hard sell. This is just simply to say, if you're interested, we're doing nutritional coaching with Dasha for $150 for the remainder of the challenge. It's not a hard sell, but that is something that we would usually sell for $199 for a month. We're selling to you guys exclusively for $149 for the remainder of the challenge. So I am not going to beat my salesman drum up here. It's just something that is available to you if it is of any interest. Okay. Awesome. And that's the end, guys. We've made it through to the end. Now, I did see a question in here and that I missed earlier, and that was, is coconut oil okay? Yep, 100% coconut oil is okay. So if you're using coconut oil as a tool in your day-to-day nutrition, soldier on, I would say. Dasha, you have any comments on that?
No, coconut oil is an amazing choice because that is a great one to be eaten cold or hot. Like you can fry things in coconut oil, so it's a perfect choice for both.
Awesome. Also a really cool thing to add to your coffee as well, if you want to slow down the absorption and the onset of caffeine, adding it into your coffee is absolutely something you can do. That's something that we would do. We'd call a bulletproof coffee. Nice flavor, but also slows down the onset of the caffeine, which is nice. It's a little nicer on your adrenals and all that good stuff. Now, awesome. Since there aren't any other questions, we'll give a minute, say, for any other questions. But Dasha, is there anything else that, yeah, sorry, guys. So if you have any other questions and you'd like to throw them into the chat, do it now. And in the meantime, Dasha, is there anything else that you'd like to touch on tonight that maybe we haven't covered?
I feel like we've covered the most we possibly could in 1 hour. There's so much to talk about when it comes to nutrition, but I think we tried our best to touch on the most important things. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, nothing else has come through the chat. Feel free to unmute. Is that a word? Unmute yourselves, guys. But that's the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time. Look, we know it's late on hump day, but we thanks very much for sitting through tonight. Hopefully, there's some value there that you could take from tonight. So. Yeah, cool. Awesome. I don't know what happened to our screen just then. Oh, yeah, cool. Awesome. But I think that's it. Dasha, anything else to add?
We've got just one more question here about how important is sleep. Really, really valid question. Very important, extremely important. So you can eat amazing, you can have the best diet ever, you can work out 3 times a day. If you don't sleep, nothing will change basically, because your body is not ready. You need that recovery. That's when all the good stuff actually happens, is when you sleep and when you recover. So sleep, extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely. Recovery, a big one, but also hormone production. Hormone production for everyone, but if you're struggling with anything hormonal, making sure that you're getting a good night's sleep, you have good sleep hygiene, no screens like at this time of night, sorry guys, minimal light, reading a book versus watching something, minimal blue light, all that type stuff, no light in your bedroom, all those types of things play a huge part in the quality of your sleep. So yeah, awesome. Cool. Awesome. All right, perfect. Yeah, I think that we got everything. All right, awesome, guys. Look, that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for chiming in. We will make this a recording, so if there's someone that you know that should see it, you're going to get a link to this video. Hopefully, I'll get this done for you tomorrow, and it'll have exactly what we've just been through. So please feel free to share it with people that you think will get some value from it. But that's it for us tonight. Go forth, be healthy, and if we can help with anything, feel free to yell out.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, everybody.